10 years ago, I woke up one morning, realized that something was missing in my life. Like many of you out there, you decided to take the gamble. Yeah, a gamble. Something new, something totally different. You went on a dating site. You could call yourself by then an old man. You're too old to go around the bingo halls, the pubs, the other places that you meet people overseas. And I say overseas, back home, in your home country, as a Westerner. And you entered that magical world of, I'll call it make-believe at the start. You logged on. You made a profile of yourself. You tried to sell the most truthful and honest expression of how you are as a person. And by doing so, you put yourself out there, as they say. In a way, you sort of waited for a little while, and then you started to scroll through hundreds and hundreds of different people, all in the same position as you. And some you'd take note of, and you might think, so you tick that one. And sooner or later, you had a little bunch of maybe 10, 15, maybe even more, that you then go back and read their profile. And again, the journey starts where you start to believe there's hope. There's a chance that you'll find, I suppose, an old-fashioned word, but a true emotion. You would find love, no matter what age you are. Some might look for very young wives, partners, girlfriends, and some might look for people closer to their own age, in the hope that they will be the one. I took that journey 10 years ago, and I started to talk to one or two, and soon realized that why was I wasting my time? And then the little bell rang, and you know who popped up. And from there on, the story began. The story of hope, enthusiasm. The sun started to shine again, and the eagerness to actually meet that person in the flesh started to become a reality. Some 3 or 4 months later, I started that journey. I got on a plane, and I headed for the Philippines, like many of you do. Trepidation, fear, excitement, all of those things we felt. It was a 9-hour flight for me. And as we came into sight of all those islands of the Philippines, as we were about to land in Manila, My heart was racing, I suppose. I was just wondering what that moment will be like. I lived that moment before I even came through the customs hall. And finally, I got to meet that person. Sorry for the break. Dogs will find something to make you lose your track. But we'll carry on. We then tentatively introduced each other, and we went off for our customary. Having alighted from the customs hall, in those days, all the ladies, all the people greeting you were waiting across the road in I'll call it a holding pen. And you look for the face that you've become used to on that little screen or the computer each day. And then suddenly your eyes meet and I don't know what the emotion is. It's partly excitement, nervousness, and maybe a bit shy. But nevertheless, it's the start of a physical relationship. I can't remember too much about the event in the sense that I think we followed the lead and she found a cab back to the hotel that she'd arranged for my first night stay there. Again, getting to know oneself or getting to know the person you've been speaking to for so long is, I won't say it's exciting because obviously there is excitement to it, but it's more nervous anticipation of what might be ahead. And therefore, it's moment by moment relived. I do remember a few days later, the long trip, some 6.5 hours, to arrive here in the province for the start of what will be, I thought, a wonderful journey, a future with my Filipina, as we often call them. Those that have watched my videos would also understand that in a affectionate way, one would say, your little volcano. And therefore, those that have got a Filipino girlfriend or wife would know what I mean. Because there's so many parts, so many hidden parts to your Filipina that you will know very soon after you've actually started to get to know her. And therefore, she's not like a Western woman. She's full of intrigue, but she's also full of unknown sparks, we'll put it that way. And communication is always spoken about, but I wonder actually how much of it is understood. And when I say that also, I mean understanding another person is all about being able to get your point across and know that the point that you put forward is understood fully by the other person receiving it. This is one of the biggest difficulties in having a foreign girlfriend anywhere in the world, because they of course have been brought up in the culture, the customs, the traditions of their own country. And if you have no knowledge really more than a few videos that you've seen where people say, taking your rose-colored glasses off, this is how they really are. How are we really going to understand what it's going to be like a whole lifetime? Many of you, of course, have met your Filipino overseas, and in a way they've become more accustomed to the Western ways. And over time, within that relationship, they've started to understand how you tick, and of course for you to understand how she ticks. It's a different kettle of fish when you finally come back and retire here in the Philippines, because she reverts back to the way she was before she came here, with a certain amount of etiquette, a certain understanding of you and how she must deal with issues with you and you with her in her land as opposed to your land. But back to the story, and that is that one always hopes that when you meet that person, it is forever. But as we also know, after many years, 76 years, nothing lasts forever. Sadly, it's not just the woman you lose. It's the whole life that you had. The promises, the expectations, and also the dreams are completely shattered. You may well have formed relationships with her children, sometimes very, very strong, almost as strong, if not more, than that of your own. And there lies the problem. We're living in a country where the laws are there to protect the Filipino woman. And you, of course, have no rights, or if you have, they cost a lot of money to ask for the system to back you. It may well back you as long as you have resources to do it, but in a way it's an empty victory, because justice should be equal, and unfortunately it's not here as a foreigner. It's not said as a contradiction or criticism of the country, it's just the way the Philippines was set up. But you have to remember also that the Philippines is made up of many, many tribes. It's a tribal background. A lot of people think it's a place where the Spanish came here and changed it to be a little Spain. No, they didn't. They came here to exploit the country. They came here for the gold and all of the riches in those days. They spent 300 years exploiting the locals. They tried to make all the tribes one kind of people. And when they left, what did they leave behind but a very mixed up, troubled, confused group of people who had discovered that they stood up against those colonists who came to try and take their country away from them. But by doing so, they've left behind a legacy of mistrust, cunningness, and in a way, in their attempt to bring the church into people's lives, they left the church behind, which provided a certain faith to the country, a large percentage of the country. I believe it's as much as 85% are known to be Catholic. So you have the Catholic traditions here, where the family is the center, and it always was as a tribe. The tribe was the center too. If you look at a small tribe, there's a chief, a king, whatever you want to call them, and everybody down below, right down to the pauper. But everyone had their place. Gossip, jealousy, envy, all part and parcel of being part of a tribe. It's the same in the world outside of the Philippines. But when it's over, I'm sure you all feel gutted. I did. I do. And I feel angry that I've been cheated. But let's not all jump onto the bandwagon and say they're scammers, because they're not. Things sometimes don't work out. But the trouble is that it's very hard to move on from that point, especially when you have given 10 years of your whole life to somebody. You enriched them. You have thought that, yes, why not? You'll build them a home. It's not just their home, it's your home as well. It might not be on some piece of paper, but effectively you're building a home, a castle, a fortress against the rest of the world for you and your partner and her children or any of your own. And to have that taken away from you at the stroke of a pen, effectively, is a hard pill to swallow. A lot of videos will say that you have to be careful, you have to choose well. How can we choose well? Nothing guaranteed in this world that you will. It doesn't matter where you live in the world. Marriages don't last. Is that bad? I don't know. We as supposedly monogamous human beings think that that's the way it is. Ring on the finger, she's yours for life. Not as a possession, but as a partner walking beside you through life and what life throws at you. But unfortunately, it doesn't always last. And you find yourself trying to be reasonable, try to be conciliatory, try to resolve so that both can hold your head up high. Remember that other side of the Filipino culture, saving face? Well, how do you save face when someone effectively wants to take your life savings away from you, wants to destroy you completely? Now, of course, they don't see it that way. Aren't they? Aren't they a delight? They don't understand money. Money is to have a good time today. Let's have a party. Let's have a birthday. Let's have a feast. Don't worry about tomorrow. We'll worry about that when it comes. They don't have a concept of you contributing for the rest of your life, from the early days when you started your first job to the time you retire. Some of them do get what they call retirement, and they get a pension from the government here or from some of the big employers. But they're very far and in between, very far and few. They don't see it the same way. They know that they contribute in the fact that their salary is reduced by the time they get it in their hand. PhilHealth, insurance, paying for people who die in the office, all that type of stuff. But they don't understand the Western way of how it is It's our nest egg, something that we are there to provide us with a lasting legacy for when we finally retire. Some choose to blow it on overseas trips, take the wife around the world on cruises, but some of us choose to come to the Philippines and build a home for their last love in their life. Doesn't happen, does it? And that's a reality of coming here to the Philippines. You're going to be fleeced. You are an ATM. You are an unlimited resource. Every time something goes wrong, it's going to be your fault. It's never theirs. Why didn't you think about that, my sweet? Well, that's for you to sort out, my darling. You're the one with the ATM card. Well, that doesn't sound very fair, does it? Why is it that they question what you've spent your money on when they know how much you get? Why? Because you're honest with them. What do they want? Honesty, integrity, loyalty, financial stability. But in return, we want loyalty, love, caring, understanding, and truth. Well, of course, the final stuff is, and I can hear some of you saying, when's it going to stop? I won't go on for too long, but the reality is those blessed telephones, the things I'm using right now, they're on them 24/7. You won't get them off them. They're hooked. The world will tell you they're the biggest user of text messages per population head, and they just cannot help themselves taking selfies. They must all imagine that they are supermodels, and they are beautiful, but not all of them are supermodels. But they still take selfies of themselves and their friends and their relatives. And of course, don't forget that lovely hot meal sitting on the table. You have to take the right angle before you get to actually eat it. By the time you get to eat it, it's starting to go cold. So it's certainly not a hot meal. But that's up to you. You get her to cook you a hot meal and say, take a quick picture and now let's eat. And let's not have the telephones in our hand as we munch into the food. A waste of time, guys. It's in the culture. And I wish you all the best for your wonderful future here in the Philippines. The good thing and the good news and the good end of a story is that you know what's out there? Millions more to replace the one that no longer wants you. Millions more that will be more than willing to be your companion, to care for you, to honor you, and to be respectful of your needs as you are of theirs. If you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. You won't need tissues. I didn't mean to give you a nosebleed, and I didn't mean to upset you or anybody else, certainly not a Filipino. So, we'll no doubt hear from me again sooner than you think. Bye now.